friends, it's just Martine, and it's time for some July reading statistics. I was actually pleasantly surprised with how my July reading went, for the number one reason that in June my reading went crazy and I thought it would kill my reading for July, but actually I had my second best reading month of the year. So I'm pleased about that, and I'm really excited to show you some of the statistics that I have here, particularly one that I worked really hard on. So let's just get straight into it. First, I want to talk to you about how many hours I read. According to Bookly, I read 11,634 pages, which is slightly off as always from what my reading tracker says that I have, because Bookly is tracking them as I read them, and my reading tracker is tracking whole books, some of which I started in the previous month. And so for July, my reading tracker says I read 13,544 pages. So that's about a 2,000 page difference there. And then Bookly also tells me that I read for 144 hours, which interestingly enough is only 10 hours less than I read in June. Pretty chuffed about that. I don't know what's wrong with me today. Also, did you notice my Christmas in July theme? Okay, moving on. So my average pages per day was 451.47, which is about 200 pages less per day than June, but I was focusing on books that took longer to read, so less pages, same amount of time basically. And then for my average page count, it was 398.35, which is my highest average page count per book for the year, which is incredible because that was the main thing I was focusing on, was reading bigger books this month. So I successfully did that. My most read genre was sci-fi because I'm not a fantasy girly, and so if I'm reading chunky books, they're usually sci-fi, although I did read plenty of fantasy this month as well, as you'll see in a minute when we talk about genres. 22 of those 34 books that I read, sorry, I forgot to tell you, I read 34 books, 22 of them had representation that I marked down, and 14 of them were from authors that I've read from before. I did read a lot of series. That contributed to that number, I will tell you. Okay, let's do the fun stuff and get into our graphs. So this is our genre graph. Funny that I made a comment about reading more sci-fi because I literally only read a singular more sci-fi book than I read fantasy books. Blame the Shadowhunters universe for that because I made some serious progress in that series this month. My 4 adventure books per use, the Magic Treehouse books, 6 mystery books, 4 romance, 2 historical romance, and 3 contemporaries, and 1 classic. Moving on to book size, this is the one I'm most pleased about. We still have several small books in there because I had my Magic Treehouse books. I started the month in the middle of some books that were shorter than I thought they were, etc. But for 20.6% of my pie, a total of 7 of the books I read were small, and other than that, they were either medium, large, or chunky. With medium being the main slice of this pie with 52.9%, that's totally fine, but 8 large books that I read. Large books on my tracker are books over 500 pages, so I read 8 of those, and 1 chunky book, which is books over 700 pages. Winning. Although I do have to say, one of my large books was 699 pages, which was super annoying for this stat. This was me frantically trying to get my yearly stats fixed in terms of book size so that small wasn't the majority, and I accomplished that, so we just got to keep going from here. Next, we have star ratings, a pretty good month with solidly more than half being 4 stars and above. I did have some pretty low ratings though, with at least 1 2-star and at least 1 2.5 star, but I got 3 5-stars in, so hey. For series versus standalone, I actually read more series this month, which is interesting because typically this is flipped. I usually read more standalones than series, but because I was reading large books, it turns out that most large books are books in series. So that's what I was doing for 58.8% of the time, was just reading large, medium to large sequels, if you will. So 20 of my books were from series. Just of note. Some of those were starting series, most of them were continuing. For age range, I only read 4 children's books, so those were my 4 Magic Treehouse books, with a 35.3% YA, which I feel like is a big jump. It's not a big jump from last month, but it is a jump from previous months. So like in May, I read 6.3% YA, so that's significantly higher than that. This was largely Shadowhunters books. I won't lie to you, that's what most of them are. Over 50% adult books, 52.9%. Which I am pleased about. Next, we have author gender. This month, overwhelmingly, books written by women, which is great, 73.5%. A couple of books written by men, some by multiple authors, including the 2 books from the Expanse series that I read, because James S.A. Corey is actually 2 authors, some non-binary authors, well I guess just 1, and then some unspecified authors. Women made like a 20% jump in percentage between this month and last month. I'm trying to think like why that happened. I just think it did. I don't think that was intentional at all, but I'm happy with that. Next we have format, in which I once again largely read ebooks like I typically do with a 52.9%, but then I also came in with some physical books, 9 of them to be exact, for 26.5%, 6 audiobooks in total, and 1 book mixed media, because when I was reading Lord of Shadows, I could not focus, so I looked at it while I listened to it. For publication date, we really leaned into the backlist, especially because we were reading series, and to have multiple in a series that you're reading at once, you know, time has to have passed. So that's 70.6% of it, but still a healthy 23.5% new releases. Again, probably thanks to my library, and at least 2 books that were published last year. As far as acquired books, largely the library. This is no different than the usual, with 73.5% from the library. Last month was even crazier with 78.4%. So we read a bit more other stuff besides library books this month, which is good, including 1 NetGalley book for 2.9%, 4 owned books, which could be better, 2 owned ebooks, and 2 other books, one of which was Magic Treehouse, and one of which I have no idea what it was. So there's that. Reflecting on this reading month, I think it was a really great time. I got better at reading longer books, which is incredible because there are so many long books that I would love to read in my lifetime, but I'm just a short book girly at heart. I will definitely let myself read some more short books in this upcoming month, but I'm hoping to at least do a 1-to-1 ratio of medium, large, or chunky to small books. So we'll see how that goes. Just throwing in some yearly stats in terms of a couple things. I've now officially read 271 books, which is incredible. And my average pages per book for the year in general is 306. It was under 300 at the beginning of July, so that's a huge win for me to get it over 300. It is also hilarious though to read a like over 700 page book, enter it, and watch my average pages per book read for the year go up by like 1 page. And my small books are now sitting at 48.3%. So those are my stats and my thoughts from the month of July. I hope I have another great reading month in August, although classes are going to start. I'm going to go on a little trip and I'll be managing the Heartstopper readathon, so we'll just have to see what we have in store for us. If you like this video, go ahead and give it a big thumbs up and comment down below how was your reading month in July, and subscribe for more reading, writing, and college lifestyle content. And until next time, bye humans, bye!